Welcome back to What's New in the Lou with Alexis Zotos, presented by Caldy's Coffee. This is your can't miss weekly podcast helping you stay in the know in St. Louis. So we're talking, of course, the new restaurants, the can't miss events, but most importantly, the people that make St. Louis the best place to live and visit. Stick around for the end of the episode because we're going to give you a calendar of things to do this week in St. Louis so you do not feel left out when you see them on social media come Monday morning and you're like, wait, why didn't I know about that? That's what we're here for. Anyway, this week's episode, I'm really excited. It is all about one of St. Louis's most popular and beloved breweries, Urban Chestnut. So I'm here with Brian and Dave. You guys are going to dive into all the exciting stuff that is happening now and coming up. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We have a lot of beer on the table.
I know.
There's a lot of cool stuff happening. So many partnerships, so many new things. So let's do a little bit of that. Let's talk about what's going on right now. It's August, it's summer. What's happening at the breweries right now?
Well, right now at the brewery, we are brewing so much beer, packaging so much beer, and it's going everywhere. And that's, oh, sorry, I'll lean in. Yep, sorry. Yep, there we go. So I'll repeat that. So, yep, right now at the brewery, we are brewing so much beer and packaging so much beer. It is, believe it or not, I know it's July, but it's fall
October
seasonal
stuff,
time.
yeah,
Oktoberfest. Pumpkins, all of that. And so we've got all of that here, plus a bunch of other new stuff that is, landed in this calendar year, and then some local partnerships that we've had with, some other big known St. Louis institutions. And with that, we should probably just jump into some of what we're doing.
Real quick question.
Sure.
How much beer are you brewing right now? Like when we're talking about like volume.
Yeah, we're doing around 18,000 barrels a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how does that compare to where you guys started?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So the first year we did probably about 1,200 barrels.
Okay.
And then we doubled that in the second year, and then that's when we started looking around, and that was all at our Midtown location, which I know you're familiar with. And once we kind of hit that mark, which is really that was our 5-year business plan mark, we said, okay, we need to figure something out. And so we started looking around St. Louis for kind of some warehousing, and then we realized, no, that's just going to be a temporary fix. And so then we just started working, and we found somebody to partner with, and we essentially built the Grove Brewery and opened that in 2014.
2014. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're at the 12-year mark
12-year
of that
mark.
space.
I know, which is nuts.
That's wild.
It is.
Does it feel like that, or did it feel like it flew by?
Well, you know how they say it. Yes, when you look at it just in the comprehensive nature of it, yes, it feels like it flew by. But then when you're in it and you're living it and you think about all those moments, you're like, wow, 12 years. That's a while. It's been a bit, but it's been a blast. But it's had it's had its roller coaster journeys and lots of different things. And that's how I met Brian. As we got into a place in the business where we needed some new kind of business equity, some capital to help keep us growing. And Brian and I met in 2022, a little after the pandemic, and started working on things. And then it was last year, Brian came in. It's been almost a year and a half now that Brian's been part of this business. And it's been really exciting since he's been here because he's helped us figure out a lot of things that we couldn't do before. And we've refreshed the spaces. We've been able to, kind of develop and go in some directions on beers that we weren't able to go in before. And we got new equipment coming in and a bunch of new things on that front. And so we're growing, and it's challenging, and it's a lot of fun. And, I didn't say this before, but I just got back from vacation from 2 weeks. And when you're saying, what's going on at the brewery right now?
You're like, I don't know.
I'm like, no, it's a big gasp because it's like everything's going on. It's just nuts. So.
Well, and Brian, I want to dive a little bit into sort of your role here at the brewery, but what was the why for you? What made you say, let me dive into this?
It's a great question. So my brother Kevin and I had built 2 companies in St. Louis over 30 years and kind of coincidentally sold both of them in late 21 and early 2022. And so we were kind of had this great opportunity to take the next chapter in our careers. And I've always loved beer. I was a very early raving fan of Urban Chestnut, and I had been working with a banker, and he connected me and Dave, and we hit it off immediately, and really just sort of plotted out a course of how do you scale this business, especially in light of there's you read a lot of negative, beer's down, and we're really bullish, and so we kind of the ideas flowed, and we ultimately made the deal happen last April, and it's been great. My role is really my official role is chairman, but the reality is Dave and I are partners, and we work day and night together. Really,
except for the last 2 weeks.
But hey, did that mean you got to take an actual vacation?
Yes, I did.
That's really nice. That doesn't always happen.
I know. It was fantastic.
He came back with a lot of problems that I didn't solve, but that's okay. But yeah, so no, I came into this because I'll tell you a quick story. During COVID, I tell the story a lot because I think it speaks to Dave as the founder and the team that is still there for many of them for over a decade. During COVID, we all had our bubbles, and my bubble was my family. My grown kids lived real close, and so we went out at least once, maybe twice a week to the Grove and picked up half-baked pizzas and a couple of 4-packs. Mm-hmm. And I remember commenting to my family at that time, this is a company that has sort of great tenacity. And they're figuring out how to keep the doors open, quote unquote, open during the really strange period in all of our lives. Yeah. And that really resonated with me. And then when we ultimately met, I shared that story with Dave, and it just kind of sort of underscored the kind of how I thought about this business, and it's been great.
It's funny that you mentioned, obviously, the pandemic is, while it might be 5-6 years ago now, it still has such ripple effects in so many of our businesses. But I think about one of the first pictures I took during the pandemic was of that Stan Musial beer that you guys launched.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it was us on our deck, which is where we literally lived for that entire pandemic. And thank God we had that deck. But yeah, we were like, oh, fun. Look at this. We'll be home for a weekend or two. And we've got this great beer. And we're, everyone was supporting local. And, but yes, I remember having that picture on the deck being like, look at this fun time. And then it became not so fun.
Exactly.
Lasted a little longer than a couple
way
weekends.
longer than any of us ever expected.
For sure.
But, that did have a role. And I think a lot of people outside of the hospitality business don't realize still that ripple effect that COVID and the pandemic and everything, supply chain issues, things like that happen still has on you guys.
Sure, absolutely. It's changed. I think about it this way mostly. It's changed consumer behavior and habits. You think, St. Louis, the city itself, the number of, restaurants and bars that they lived on lunches, or they lived on, happy hours or late nights. And, people consume differently now. And a lot of it is, they still get out, they still do their things, but the span of the day of the experience is different. And a lot of it is now that in-home experience that we all got so used to. And so I enjoy what I see happening right now, because it's, as everything swings or cyclical, however you want to call it. And you're seeing a lot of people that I think spent a lot of time at home during the pandemic, and they're starting to get out a lot now. And it's really, I find it exciting. Every year I kind of mark it and look at it and be like, all right, yeah, it's growing a little bit more, and each time, and experiences, keep changing.
Yep.
Well, and you guys, are really have the eggs in both of those baskets. Obviously, people can pick up your beers and take them home, but then you guys have really invested in that actual come out, gather together in our spaces.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about those investments that you have made both in Midtown and at the Grove to pull people out of their homes and back into the brewery.
Why don't you jump on that? Because we've changed the Grove a lot.
The Grove, both have really had a really nice refresh. The Midtown, all new furniture, inside and out. Alexis, you were talking about the beer garden. The beer garden is it's just such a
classic.
It's
great
such a
spot.
great feel, yeah. And so we all new benches and tables, new big tent or umbrellas that provide some shade in some of these crazy hot days. And in the Grove, just dramatic enhancements to the Grove. Those big long communal tables, which I fell in love with over a decade ago as a guest at the time. Perfect for families and people to sit around and really enjoy conversation. Made by our local kind of St. Louis famous furniture maker Martin Goebel, who just recently he and his team refinished all of those, so they're nice and fresh. But we wanted to keep the authenticity of those tables. They're so cool.
It makes you really feel like you're in a beer hall.
Absolutely. Well, we've also I was a big kind of dorky fan of board. I am a fan of board games.
I
and so
love board game wall you guys have built.
It's crazy. Like
It's
I feel like
awesome.
we have among the best board game selection in the region.
That's the whole reason you got into the business.
That's
He's like, I really just want to
I just want
improve
to be
this
a
board
place
game
to
wall.
drink a beer and play a board game.
True, same. Me
It's
too.
so true. Well, those tables are built for that. The tables are so ideal for that. So that's a great enhancement. We added spirits to both locations. Dave and I both agreed that there's a certain veto power. You go out with a group of friends and 2 or 3 of them don't drink beer at all. And so they're not coming to Urban Chestnut. Well, now they can. And we have some great craft cocktails and just spirits in general. So that was a big improvement. And I think has people are recognizing. We've added media, which all new speaker system, all new TVs. Although we're not Buffalo Wild Wings where there's a TV on every wall, because that's not us. But you can see the sport. The MLS was amazing.
Oh, I bet.
The World Cup was
Cup,
just
yeah.
yeah.
It was really neat to compare and contrast 2022 to 2026 with the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, the time of the events was different, but what we had going on in 2022 is we had just finished what we now call the Stammtisch Room, which is that area down to the left is kind of a private event space. But that was our only location in the building outside of another room. It's called the Schneckelfritz Room. That was that had any media contained within the room. So during the 2022 World Cup, we had great crowds in that room. It was a lot of fun. But since we put the new media in there, which happened last year, we said, we're going to open this up a little bit bigger this year. And when we had a USA match or a Germany match or the final, it was insane in there. I mean, there was one event that we just weren't ready for. I would say it was Amsterdam-like is what it was. And we're like, sorry, everybody, we get it. You weren't really here for that, but it was still a blast, and people had so much fun.
Well, and I do think there's this camaraderie that happens around things like the World Cup, World Series,
yes.
if we ever could get back there, Stanley Cup, all those things. Those are the events that pull people together because you want to experience those kinds of things.
Sure.
As a group,
Yeah,
as a community. You mentioned bringing on cocktails. You have wine. You have other options for people, which we know is sort of vital for survival these days in the craft beer and the alcohol business in general. Talk to me about introducing those products, the hop waters, even just the lighter ABV beers.
Absolutely.
Why did you do that, and how key has that been?
Well, outside of, like you said, the survival aspect of it and wanting to offer more for your customers that come in and avoiding the veto power, you really can look at the greater beverage industry, or if you just want to narrow it down to the alcoholic beverage industry, the options for consumers have expanded exponentially. The number of RTDs that are out there. And I think a lot of that has to do with how people grew up and their taste palates are different. And so you see a lot of the RTDs are ready to drink cocktails that are out there, or lemonades or teas or those sorts of things. So you look and you realize there's space out there, and you look at our capabilities and where we can go and be in those spaces. So, we're not going to talk about a lot of those things today, but next time we'll get into those new products, the teas and the lemonades and things like that.
So things are coming. Things are coming down the pipeline. All right, stay tuned to another episode.
Exactly. But specifically you asked about hop waters. Yeah, that was a really fun one that we got into early on, and I think you'll see us do more on that scope in the future and kind of mix that up, as well as kind of in the NA space. Those are two that is in the NA space, but I mean in a beer space, which we participate in that right now with a beer called Pilot, which does well, but we see greater opportunity there. It's Pilot's a lager, but that whole, I'll just say it, everybody knows Athletic. That whole portfolio that they have, it's a variety of flavors and beer styles. And we're going to be heading in that direction at some point as well.
Have you been surprised by how well Zwickel Light and just kind of the impact that has had to have these sort of other options, these lighter ABV options that people are like, you know what, I maybe don't want a heavy beer, or I want to drink more of them.
Well, that's a term I learned when I came into the business, sessionable, right?
Yeah.
You want to sit down and have a few beers and having, 9% ABV, a few 9% ABV beers is a lot. And so, I think the Zwickel Light's been a tremendous success, and it's really a great beer. we're working on kind of because Wickle Light, I'd say, is a light beer. There's also kind of, as you asked, low ABV. We're working on something right now that's kind of unique for the style, but we're excited about it. And I think that'll come out yet this year.
Okay.
So another little tease there, but yeah. So I think we're reacting to consumer behaviors, and we'll talk about some things that are also sessionable that are super popular right now as well, and have been. So yeah, and as Dave said, I think canned cocktails is kind of something that we're really intentional. I think we're going to show several beers here, but the reality is that we're pretty purposeful in terms of what we put out. We're not putting out a beer a week, or a new flavor a week. We're kind of more thoughtful in terms of what we're doing. And so this RTD or canned cocktail project that we've been working on is finally kind of coming to a place that Dave's comfortable with and the team's comfortable with. So we're really excited about that. It'll be a cool brand.
Well, I'm excited to hear more about that. But let's talk the beers that you guys have right now that I can go grab, whether at the brewery or at the store. A lot of fun new stuff that I'm seeing on this table that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
What's this one?
So that is Fest beer. Hopefully, if you know Urban Chestnut, you're familiar with Okats, which is, it's our annual Oktoberfest release. Well, we've loved Okats, and it's done so much every year.
See, guys, you also have to, if you want to see these, you have to watch this on YouTube. You can't just be listening. If you forget, we are on all podcast platforms, but we are also on YouTube, so you can come watch this episode and actually see what we're talking about. After 32 years, Caldy's Coffee has finally introduced its first signature drink. The new Highlander Grog Latte takes one of Caldy's most loved coffee flavors and turns it into a handcrafted espresso drink, featuring a house-made syrup with notes of maple, butter, and warm spice. It's fun, familiar, and refined, the kind of drink that hits during a busy morning or afternoon break, and most importantly, it reflects the same commitment to quality and craftsmanship that has defined Caldy's Coffee since 1994. The Highlander Grog Latte is available now at all Caldy's Coffee cafes.
Absolutely. So anyhow, with Okats, it's we release it once a year, every August,
which is wild, but that's when that stuff comes out.
That's what happens.
Right?
It is, yeah. In the industry, we call it seasonal creep because everybody wants to do it in October or September, but it's I want to get to market first, so it moves, and then.
You and Target and TJ Maxx putting out the Halloween stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Halloween stuff. I'm in denial about back to school, let alone Halloween.
It's crazy that there's, getting off topic here, that there's Halloween stuff out there.
Oh my God, yeah. The stores are full. We're probably going to see Christmas here in a week or two.
We will.
If you're buying the kids their costumes, you should be able to buy yourself
there you go.
Oktoberfest beer.
Exactly.
That's only fair.
So getting back to our Oktoberfest beer. So we'd been considering this for a while, and we thought, originally, and I'll give you inside baseball here, is we were thinking we'll give Okats a break a year, and we'll bring this new style that I'll talk about here in a second, out, and then rotate Okats every other year. And we floated that out there to some of our customers, some of our wholesalers, and we just kind of resounding, what are you
thinking about?
And so we said, okay.
I was going to say, you got rid of it. I don't but you obviously listened.
We did not, yeah. So we said, okay, what we'll do then is we'll do a side-by-side, a cousin, a brother, a sister, whatever you want to call it. And the style that we have here is called Fest beer. And so if you know Okats, or if you know what typical, the style that you get with Oktoberfest beers, it's really not the beer that they serve at the festival in Munich each year for Oktoberfest. It's a Munich style lager, is basically what everybody brews, and it's great, but it's not what they serve in the tents at the festivals. And so we brought Fest beer out this year, which is a pale lager, a little bit higher in ABV, which is what they have in the tents. I think that's why everybody parties so much in the tents the way they do. But it's a fantastic, like I said, it's a 5.9% ABV, which is Okats is 5.4. It's pale, not darker in comparison. There's no Munich malt, which is kind of that roasted malt that gives it a little bit more of the toasted flavor to it. In the Okats, this is more of a there's a little bit of hoppiness to it, but then there's just this real smooth kind of mellow malt flavor to it. And like I said, it has that little bit of bump, and enjoy it for that. And I think I know people that have had it, they already love it. And once everybody gets out there picking up a 4-pack of each or more, they'll find that they're going to enjoy them both side by side.
After, what are we talking? How many years now have you guys been in business? Don't make me do math.
Since 2011, we'll call it 15.
Okay, so 15. So what excites you still about the that launch of a new beer? Like,
and that's actually a great segue because what excites me is, and the word that comes to mind is just the joy of it, and it's when you see it, because there's a business side of it, and you have a plan, and you're like, okay, we're going to do this, and you work with the wholesalers, and then you wait. And you see, because you can, if you're testing things, and we can have it on draft before we release it, and people will drink it and they'll be like, oh, I enjoy this. But then when you get it out to the market and you see, you love to see the sales, right? 'Cause we're in business. It's fantastic. But so when you get that anecdotal and you get it from, I'll get texts or I'll just be in conversation with somebody in passing or whatever it may be. It's just that joy of like, oh my gosh, I've had Squirrel Works, this is our new release, that we had come out early this year. Yeah. And it's the first time we've ever done a real, American a real American style hazy IPA. We had done a beer once before that was we used German hops in it. It was a hazy IPA, but it didn't approximate what really that category is. And so bringing this out this year and just getting the feedback on it. And again, it's that anecdotal stuff that again, like
the business stuff
success.
Is good, yeah.
It's great, but it's the anecdotal and where people have it. And what we still see today and still hear is just, it's doing great in packaging in the market, but it's out there in draft. And when we're bumping around to it and see it in different places, you have an opportunity or you sample somebody with it and they're just blown away by how fantastic, because draft beer is so much better than canned beer anyhow, how they're blown away with it. It's just, that's what I enjoy. That's for new releases.
What made you decide to take that sort of leap away from sort of the styles that you guys are known for?
Yeah, one, it's a popular style, so you want to do that. Yeah. I enjoy this.
You like it?
Yeah, we had.
Hey, that's what when you own a brewery, you get to make the beer you like.
Although it is there's always the collaboration and it's always the hey, internally do we want to do this? And we talked as a team, Brian coming in and we're like, hey Brian, we've kind of had something on the burners for a while. Come in and let's do this when you get here, and so we did. And it's it's my favorite new beer. I probably consume more of this now than any other beer that I'm drinking.
I thought you were going to say then you should.
Then I should. That's always a possibility as well. It depends on who you're talking to. True story. But no, it's I love it from the beer aspect of itself, and then just again how the reaction that people have had to it.
So people have got to keep an eye out. That's in stores,
as
well as at the brewery, and then
it's you can find draft all over town. I think people when they go out, they can pretty much find Zwickel on draft wherever they go. Pretty much, it's not everywhere, but it's somewhat ubiquitous.
They've got a good beer draft list. Like it's usually there.
Usually there.
Well, our second leading handle now is Squirrel Works.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, it can't happen.
Which is
very popular. Yeah. It took off very quickly, and in fact, we had this great demand after the first kind of push out it sold so quickly that we had to kind of rearrange schedules to get more in the tank. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
We love to hear that problem.
Yeah,
right?
It's a great problem to have, and I think it's a really cool.
It's a beautiful,
it looks really cool. Squirrel Works
case.
Yeah.
And then you guys are known for obviously partnering with so many of our great businesses. We have lots of examples right here with Emos. Vulcan, James Beard award winning.
Exactly.
What does that mean to you to be able to partner with those other fantastic St. Louis businesses?
Yeah, this for me, when you ask that question, it harkens back to the beginning of the business and what we wanted to do. And that was, we always said we wanted to be a contributing member of the St. Louis community and specifically in St. Louis. And so as we've grown over time and we partner with other small businesses or large businesses, it's just, that gives me the goosebumps a little bit because that is specifically what we wanted to do. And, today we're growing more and we're going different places, but it's those little connections and little things that you do and with different institutions around town. There's a bunch of connections here.
I know. Purina's over here.
Yeah, so the Purina, real quick on that one, I won't get too much in the details there, but so this year for Dog Chow, the brand, it was their 100th anniversary of the Dog Chow brand. So they wanted to do something. We've partnered with Purina a number of years with Urban Underdog and Raise a Pint for Pets program. So this year they wanted to do something special for the Dog Chow brand, that recognition of the anniversary, and do something for the employees. So we essentially, let me think about this. I think we canned about 20,000 cans of it only for Purina.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had an event down at the tower, and then over the last several weeks, we've been shipping it out to all their factories around the country. So it's all beer for their employees, and you can't find this on the shelves yet, but we are actively working with Purina right now because their team over there were like, this is great. We want to see this in the market now. We're like, okay, we'll work with you to make that happen. So probably in early 27, you'll see that on the
Amazing.
shelves. Yeah, something
That's
like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then again, the zoo.
Yep.
I mean, the St. Louis Zoo, one of our great institutions.
Yep. Every year we partner with them and do a new release. This year's release is a light hoppy lager. It checks in about 4% ABV, so very drinkable, sessionable. 95 calories, 3.7 grams. It's you go to the zoo, you got kids,
Sometimes you need a beer.
You need a beer. When it's hot, it's nice to have a nice lager.
Light lager.
So you can find that at a zoo, but you can also find it in shelves. And
it's the Kimono Dragon.
Yeah, and which has been very fun. I don't know if you guys, his name is Charlie. I'm 90% sure. Fact check me on that. But my kids will be like, we know what his name is. They love the
That's
dragon.
good if your kids know what the beer's name is.
No, the weekend that they were like debuting him, they had a big curtain up. They weren't going to like debut him until Sunday or whatever it was. I look over, my 5-year-old's underneath the curtain. He's like, come see him. He's like pulling like people over. He's like, you can see him underneath the curtain. I'm like, get away from the curtain.
You're not supposed to be under there.
Looking at the Kimono Dragon yet. Oh my God. But when you think back to those early days, could you have imagined these kinds of partnerships with the great St. Louis institutions?
I mean, yes, that's what it was. Imagine was more of a dream, right? And so now when you do them, it gets you there. But no, not initially. I mean, especially, my background a little bit and it, but, I came from AB and I'd been there for, I always say it was the first half of my career, which I think now balance-wise, it might have been less than half, but it's somewhere right in that range. Anyhow, but come from AB and having partnerships like that, it was neat, but those were, it was Anheuser-Busch, it was big. So being a small guy, we weren't sure those things would ever happen, but now they do, and it's so great. Again, it's part of the fabric of St. Louis, and that's why we enjoy it so much. Yeah.
For people who maybe don't know those like early days of Urban Chestnut, give us a brief little background of the why. I mean, that's
a great story.
That was, the time. We know now how many craft breweries we have in St. Louis, but there was a time when we didn't. And you guys were one of the early ones.
Yeah, and that year, 2011 was really the year for craft beer in St. Louis, which it had been, I'll use it in coffee terms, it was percolating for a while because in St. Louis you had, it's right here in front of me.
He's got his word of the day calendar going.
It's the caffeine's working, trust me. So, but anyhow, so what was going on at that time, or prior to 2010, is really kind of the way I look at it. There are a few things. There was always the Anheuser-Busch factor of St. Louis, and everybody's brother or cousin, or there was just a connection. In St. Louis, we were such an Anheuser-Busch heavy market, and so you had InBev come in. I was working, for AB at that time. But also, when you looked at St. Louis compared to other metropolitan markets around the country, from a craft beer perspective, it was so under indexed. It looked so different. And again, that was the Anheuser-Busch factor. But the InBev thing changed that. And, what occurred was, people like myself and others that I partnered with my business partner at the time, Florian, who was a brewmaster at AB. And I was, essentially in new products, in different brands and different things. Is you just saw this, you saw St. Louis, you're like, I love St. Louis. It needs to have craft beer. It needs to have that small brewer. And so in 2011, it just exploded. And, we launched then and Four Hands and Civil Life and numerous. And Schlafly was already, the big, mainstay that they were. And, it changed the market forever in that sense.
When you think back to that time of, kind of the obviously for me, that was sort of when I was becoming of drinking age and things like that. So I don't really know a time.
Me
too. You too. Of sort of before craft beer. And I was in California for college, where obviously there was a ton of craft beer options. But when you think back on that, when they launched it and you think of it now, what excites you about the current state of craft beer and the future?
Sure. I mean, I think that part of our strategy is, we've invested a lot we haven't talked about this yet. We invested a lot in kind of a field sales team to really support our retailers and our bars and restaurants that are so valuable to us. And so I think what that excites me, and I see it all the time, we talked about Squirrel Works and the speed with which our team and our wholesaler partners were able to get this into the market because it's a great product, is super exciting. I think as I think about the future, our objective is obviously we're a St. Louis company, and you can tell we're really proud of our St. Louis roots, but we're also really investing in kind of the region and adjacent markets where we're putting talented people and we're making marketing investments. So I'm excited about kind of how we're seeing growth happen there as well. We've been talking a lot about a lot of seeds have been planted and they're really starting to bloom, and I'm excited to see them kind of fully flourish.
Does that mean people are going to be able to get Urban Chestnut in a larger radius outside of here?
They already can. We're distributed right now in 10 states.
10?
Throughout the Midwest.
I love learning new facts on my own podcast.
It's a great,
10 states, that's amazing.
And so there's opportunity in those. Obviously, St. Louis is where the vast majority of our distribution is, but we just recently hired a person in Nashville because we have a great partner, a wholesaler partner.
I'm sorry, is Nashville popular?
Nashville just happened, so you may not have caught up yet. So making great inroads there. So yeah, I think geographically, our brands resonate. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the future. I think, we're when you think about geography, sort of great new beers that we're making and enhancing the kind of guest experience at our locations, all three of which are, major initiatives of ours. I think we mentioned the Old Base Factory. I think
we talked about that before. Yeah, so you guys are kind of growing out into the Metro East area.
Yeah, so great opportunity for us to get great visibility of our brand that's kind of hasn't been super visible in Metro East. So yeah, we're at so many good things happening that we're excited about the future.
How do you do that growth from a calculated standpoint and not grow too big?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question because it is, one of the advantages that craft beer has always had is, and we've been bouncing around about this topic, is the locality of it. And that's one of your greatest assets.
No doubt.
Is everybody knows you locally. I mean, that's why we're talking about, Old Base Factory. It's like, all right, people know us on the other side of the river, but we don't really kind of have a presence there. And this provides us with that presence and something for people to interact with if they're not coming over to the St. Louis side. So as we look and, as you just learned, we're in 10 states and we've been in 10 states, maybe a little bit more at different times. And there's a term in the industry called high spotting, where you're not necessarily in a market and you're available across the market like you would be in St. Louis. You might just be in a few accounts that are more like called craft beer bars or bottle shops or that sort of thing, where people are like, I'm really I'm a fanatic. I want to find different beers and experience them. We've been in a lot of markets like that, but from a calculated standpoint in a market, as again, Nashville, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
We've been in Chicago for a while. We've kind of fluctuated there a little bit, but we've re-upped our investment there, and we were with a new distributor there now, and it's understanding and kind of being a little bit more intentional with the market the way it exists today, and trying to grow, as you use the word calculated, but grow with intention and purpose versus a little bit more like, let's just kind of blank the market and see how we do. It doesn't work because you don't have that locality and you don't have the resources.
There's not that passion. When you're looking at a store shelf, we as St. Louis, and so I'm like, okay, yes, I know Urban Chestnut. I love them. I don't know this one, but I know what I like. Yep. So I'll pick that up versus if you're in a brand new market, you don't have that sort of
You don't have
background.
that. And you don't have that, you don't have the Anheuser-Busch, marketing muscle where it's like, oh, I recognize that brand from the commercials or from whatever it may be, however you consume media. So, it is like identifying and recognizing markets and saying, all right, we're going to do this and do this here. I mean, one of the markets that we've been in over time and, since early on, but haven't, we've never, once we had a rep there, but that was Kansas City. That's a market right now where we may be putting a rep in place there, but we're kind of relaunching the brand there this summer, in the next couple of weeks, as a matter of fact.
The team's going.
And really kind of getting that going again too.
Well, we have some Kansas City listeners, so
good.
Check that out, guys.
Yeah, sure. Keep a lookout for it.
You mentioned your current favorite beer. So I got your answer.
Yeah.
But Brian, for you, what are you reaching for right now?
What are you drinking too much?
Well,
what are you drinking too much of?
Or just the right amount?
I think I kind of stayed on the sidelines on the OCATS debate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not really. I was a quiet advocate, but OCATS is. I mean, I'm so excited that we decided to bring that back because it's such a great beer. That's my just very recent go-to because it just came back out here. It's not even on shelf yet. But I got a little early access. But yeah, I love.
That's a perk, right?
It's a great perk. It's an amazing perk.
People can mark their calendars because Oktoberfest is coming back.
Yeah, next week.
No, well, I mean, actual
Oh, the
Oktoberfest.
event.
I'm like,
the event.
yes,
Sorry.
now it's happening
I'm so
in August.
anxious about the beer.
Gave everyone a heart
But
attack.
that's good too to know that
Yeah.
you can get those on.
But hey, if you want to show up at the Grove next week for Oktoberfest, that's fine.
Come on
We'll
out.
take you.
But it is coming back
Yep.
first weekend of October.
First weekend in October.
Okay.
October.
Full party
Yep.
in the Grove
the full
again.
Party in the Grove. Yeah, and I think this year, because the last couple of years, what we've done, and I know, we've had Oktoberfest, the more of the family day on Sundays, and we've done that at Midtown.
Yeah.
So this year, we're going to do all 3 days at the Grove. So we're just shutting down the street for a little bit longer, which our neighbors love.
But, it's one of those things where it brings the city out.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, what beer, what hospitality does is it brings the community together in so many different ways. And I'm excited to hear about all that you guys have going on. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Alexis,
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, at the end of each episode, we bring you a roundup of events happening across the St. Louis region. So here's what's happening in the Lou this week, August 10th through the 16th. On Wednesday nights this month, you can experience Urban Chestnut's pop-up beer garden at Brentwood Park. That's this week on August 12th. Meet Me in St. Louis. It's your last opportunity for the Muni this summer. It is happening now through August 13th. Sunsets and Snow Cones is the free event that Great Rivers Greenway puts on this week. It is at Chain of Rocks Bridge on August 13th. And this weekend is Blues at the Arch, happening the 14th through the 16th at the Gateway Arch. And finally, the Gateway Dragon Boat Festival at Creve Coeur Lake is happening Saturday, August 15th. If you have an event that you want us to include in the podcast, let us know. You can reach out to us and like us and follow us on social media. You can find us at What's New in the Lou podcast on Instagram and on Facebook. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you back here next week.